Jai Hind and welcome to deftalks. This is Aadi. Xi Jinping literally blinked on China's zero COVID after the Chinese taught him a certain lesson. You can't push us too far. What are the ramifications of China lifting the COVID lockdowns? What are the ramifications of China's walk back, if I may? Xi Jinping's sign of weakness. Is there going to be a long term challenge that the Communist Party of China is going to face in the future? Because this, to me, is a lesson learned by the Chinese people. To discuss this entire story and the gambit, I have with me Major General Rajiv Narayanan. Sir, good evening. Thank you so much. And Xi Jinping blinks.
Yes, I have called it in my presentation that the red emperor blinks. I'll just show you किधर गया
But interesting है sir कि the
एक मिनट let me just upload
the
file
guys,
एक
by
मिनट
the
एक
time
मिनट
sir does that, please like this video. Okay, as soon as you come in, please, and Mr. Somadeep, thank you so much for that message. Please press the like button so that the video gets circulated by the YouTube algorithm. This is very important, so that the video reaches a larger audience. And of course, check your subscriptions. Check the bell icons if you have hit, to get the notifications. If you can, please do contribute towards the DevTalks efforts by becoming a member, or just clicking the thanks button in the live chat currently, or you can just directly contribute to us at the UPI mentioned below in your screen. Sir, thank you so much. I think ये आपका आ गया है, sir. Should I put this
आ
up?
गया है हाँ yeah put this up just put it
Right.
up yeah so I have called it that the red emperor blinks. What next for the people of China? Now this is a crucial moment in the history of CPC with China. The presently it is showing what protocols. I'll just go through the protocols. They were strict lockdowns,
Hmm.
wherein the entire block used to be sealed. But even now they are going for targeted to buildings, units, or floors. But they have not clarified that if one COVID the building will be locked or two COVID the building will be locked. क्या करेंगे? That is there is no clarification on that. They claim that the high risk will come out of lockdown after 5 days. Schools are going to be open as long as wider campus outbreak. Now, that is a very relative term. What is wider campus outbreak for us may be different from what CPC wants. Uh, they're saying that if you don't have uh, problems when you have COVID, it is what cap board hai uska. Uh, you're not very sick, you can quarantine at home.
Hmm.
पहले वो 5-3 होता था 5 days in central quarantine and 3 days at home.
जी.
So you stay at home. PCR tests are no longer required, but still on Twitter, people were sharing about huge queues standing for PCR tests. So again,
Waiting.
so again, you don't know. Public transport, restaurants, gyms, uh, your lateral flow test to replace ICR. I really don't know what the hell is this lateral flow test. They were doing the quick
Nucleic
test
acid.
hota hai, that what is that called? RPC,
RT-PCR.
RT-PCR करते थे.
They were doing that and nucleic acid, sir. Both of them.
And inter-province travel has been, they say, has been lifted, but what is the protocol? How it is going to be done? It is not yet opened. Now, the biggest problem that I feel this is going to have is that it has already started rising. These are the official figures, and this is on the left is Johns Hopkins figures as of December 7th. And on the right is their own Chinese Ministry of Civil Affairs, which shows the cremations. In the If you see the rightmost, the difference is close to 3 million. That's a huge spike. One of the things they were telling is that uh, people with comorbidities who got COVID and were admitted and who died, that has never been reflected by the Chinese as
COVID
COVID.
deaths.
That's why they kept their figure so low. But this itself is a dead giveaway. A spike of 3 million deaths. And just look at the kind of deaths that are taking place. It is amazing. And the problem, like the gauntlet has been thrown. It is not that this was the first time this strikes and other things have taken place. It has been
Yes, and
taking
this is
place
very
over a
common.
period of time.
Mm.
So much so that the spike became so much that between 2006 and 2010, that after 2010, they have stopped publicizing this, giving out their figures. Okay. But this was something very drastic. And with a slowdown in his economy because of the total lockdown and the kind of problems the people were facing. You see, there was a report last month that Mithun Chakravarti's song Disco Dancer Ka Jimmy 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 became very famous. Right? Why did it become famous? Because in Mandarin, Jim I means give me rice. And they were dancing to that song with empty vessels. See, when we were also in our lockdown, our essential services didn't close.
Never.
People didn't go hungry. Here, the essential services have closed. So, how do people survive? I wonder how many deaths would have taken place in those behind those locked doors. Old people. Now, in one of the slides which I saw in SCMP, they were showing that the South China Morning Post that 40% they have reached of people over 80. They have not yet spoken about the children, the kids, people over 80. And I find that surprising because just before this, I think around April, May, they were barely touching about 15-20%.
Mm.
Are you telling me you have doubled it when you had lockdown? Whom are you fooling? Even if that, be that as it may, the major issue is that the rest of the people between the elders and the kids are into their 8th or 10th booster dose. Okay. And here you are claiming that they have been given one booster dose. Because their Sinovac and Sinopharm have been made using a dead virus. They are not mRNA ones, which has a live virus. So the dead virus is taken by the body as a virus, a dead entity to be thrown out from the body. It lasts within the body barely 1 to 2 months. That means your vaccine, which in any case has been found to be effective, though official figures are 55%, 56%, I'm sure it is much lower. It loses its efficacy after 1 or 2 months. That means every 2 months, 3 months, you got to keep giving the vaccine. ये कैसा वैक्सीन है और खड़ दिमाग, you don't want to change, you will not get anything outside. The bigger issue is once you have opened up, you have a spike, your hospitals can't cater for it. So just yesterday evening, or I think I was reading today morning I was reading that he has said all the quarantine centers to be converted into hospital spaces and 10% with ICUs. It takes time. It takes time. Concurrently, what is he doing? They already had, we know, they had this face recognition.
Mm.
In AI, they also had, along with face, gait recognition, how you walk, how you move. That also software they have. So even if you wear a mask, your voice recognition, your face, and your gait are matched, and they know that who you are. And now they are going and targeting all these people to arrest them. Colleges or universities, they have closed because that was the hub center. Now let us see if they claim they are opening up. Schools, I'm sure they will open because kids were not involved in that. Colleges and universities, when will they open? And when you are not able to handle this spike, what do? Are you going for a fresh lockdown, or you let people die? Concurrent with this is the statement which he has given, where he proudly claims that 14.7 million people have been arrested in his purges and in his 10 years, and it is going to continue. Anti-corruption purges. Now, will he target them for anti-corruption, or will he target them as agents of external forces, which is what he has claimed and hinted at openly during his 20th Congress? That the challenge he faces is because of agents of external forces. What happens to the covenant with the people that they have?
That is
Right?
the biggest question, na, sir.
Yeah, and that is where the whole problem is lying, that you are breaking that covenant. Economic prosperity is growing down the drain, and you're looking at it was economic prosperity for loss of freedom. So there is no economic prosperity, and you're not giving them any freedom. And that is where the whole issue is lying, because a lot of private players are also, since 2015, quite a lot of them had moved their funds out of China, their private money. How do you think Jack Ma is surviving in Japan?
He's quit China. China, that his firm also. I forget the name.
Yeah, the Alibaba.
नहीं नहीं एक उसका जो मदर कंपनी है सर.
So he's left all that. But like I said, since 2015, they knew the line this man is going to take, this megalomaniac is going to take. And so they have been shifting their money quietly, not to Hong Kong, but Japan, Korea, Singapore, Australia, New Zealand, where they would be welcome.
Hmm.
So he's now in Japan. A lot of other people are also there. At the moment, by the way, Vivo, Xiaomi, and Oppo are in talks with India that they will shift their major base for exports to India. कि वहाँ थोड़ा बहुत जो लोकल को बनाना है उसको रख दो, बाकी सारा कुछ टेक्नोलॉजी एंड एवरीथिंग दे वांट टू ब्रिंग इट टू इंडिया. I don't know whether India is going to take that bait and accept them, but it's a telling statement which indicates that the private players are ready to run away from there.
Even Apple has said
Yeah,
$500 million.
500 million. He is going to, in the next 2-3 years, he's going to double the production out
Saudi
here. That
Arabia.
means, obviously, yeah, with the kind of incidents that have taken place in that factory there, who will have trust there that this man will, you can trust this man? You can't trust this man.
True.
And because he has taken his step back, he is going to be very brutal now. He is going to be very brutal. He is not going to. But people have to take a choice now. Do you want a PRC China as an average power, a declining power, or would you like a democratic China as a rising power? Now, that is the choice the people have to make, and the PAP stroke military has to take the call. And I will tell you why I say these people have to take a call. Huangho, the yellow river, it's called yellow because very heavy sedimentation takes place in that, and it gives the color of the water a yellow shade because of the sedimentation. That's why
Hmm.
it is called the yellow river. It is a very temperamental river, and it keeps shifting its flow to the estuary. The color code that you see, these are the various areas where it has gone from the Bohai Sea into the Yellow Sea.
Okay.
Okay. The present one is going into the Bohai Sea here. Now, I have just taken, because you have the Qin dynasty, while they talk about 2000 Zhao dynasty, उसका कोई कुछ लिखा हुआ नहीं है. That's all conjecture which they have created that we are 2000 year old. इनका actual history शुरू होता है about 200 odd BC with the Qin dynasty. So over a period of time, when the river changes its course, you why I'm talking of this is, always remember the North China has always dominated South China.
South China. Hmm.
Okay. So North China में ही ये problem होता है, where the river keeps changing. The Yangtze doesn't. It is Huangho, which is the temperamental river. So it takes a period of time when you have the diversion and you have famine. That's when the people become angry, and then some military leader has supported them and overthrown. Like the fall of the Tang dynasty, this is, sorry, 907 CE होना चाहिए. This is around this period when the river changed course from 893 to 907, when the Tang dynasty fell. Okay, which is the gray colored. Gray colored would be this one.
Correct, sir.
From the original flow, which was the light yellow, it changed. It changed course. From south, it went off towards north. So you had famine in a huge portion of area, and they fell. Similarly, next big was the Song dynasty. Song dynasty में same हुआ, ऊपर से ये नीचे आ गया.
Literally the next change.
Yeah, next was Song, which was the big kingdom, because which was the major kingdom. It fell, and the Yuan came, the Mongols came, but that fell because of this your famine which took place, because the river moved course, so your fields had no water, and there was discontentment taking place over a period of time, because as the river changes and you're not changing the taxation law, you want the same tax from the peasants. So then, but always one of the leaders of their army, one of the warlords, a few warlords have joined hands with one leader and overthrown the king. Then comes the Yuan dynasty, where the river which was going here came into the Yellow Sea, तो ऊपर पूरा famine हो गया. ठीक है. So again the Yuan was overthrown and the Ming dynasty came. Ming dynasty में river flow change हुआ नहीं था, but they were plagued. There was earthquake in Shanxi province. North area, there is a term in their history which they call Little Ice Age. Means the temperatures became so high out there that it destroyed the crops. And again you see a natural calamity, and there were a couple of warlords, big warlords and the king, and they joined hands together and they overthrew them. Then when you come to the Qing dynasty, the last Qing dynasty, while people say that, I also say Sun Yat-sen, but Sun Yat-sen has the support of the Beiyang army. Yang something was the name of the general, the Beiyang army, which is the North army. He had the support of them. That is how he overthrew the Qing dynasty. And then they removed him, and he wanted to become emperor, but he died.
Yeah, opium wars and this and that. There were a lot of another sort of a calamity.
External intervention, national humiliation, and all that took place. But despite that, it was because the Beiyang army supported Sun Yat-sen. That's how he was able to overthrow them. Similarly, KMT kaise gira? Because the Red Army, you fought the civil war.
Yeah.
Now comes, will the PRC fall? It is now starting a cycle. What we are seeing, I'm not saying that it is going to get overthrown now or next year or 10 years down the line. I don't know. But this series, if he is going into this cycle again and again of lockdown, open up, lockdown, open up, there is spike, your hospitals can't take it on, you lock down. What happens to the people? What happens to your economy? Will somebody become angry. In any case, he has sacked so many of the PLA generals. डर उतर गया ना अभी इसको देख के, एक किस्म का डर उतर गया कि इस आदमी को भी डराया जा सकता है. He can be made to blink.
It's a very valid
Maybe,
lesson
yeah,
Chinese have
but
learned.
no. But the other aspect is that Tiananmen was at one place, at
Hmm. So
Tiananmen Square. This was spread over 40 odd, 30 odd universities and cities. To do a replicate at Tiananmen, all those places, he would not be able to do it. So on the flip side, he is going into that, show that you have taken a step back, but target all the leaders and everything and sort them out. But by opening up, again, you're going to have a spike. Their ex vice president of their CDC, they also have a center for disease,
disease control.
clinical disease center. He has predicted in the next 3 to 4 months 1 billion cases by opening up. Though he must be hyping it up, 1 billion cases, but एक आध मिलियन तो कहीं गया नहीं है.
लेकिन उसके बाद Beijing also has reported shortage of paracetamol as reported by SEMP sir.
यार पैसे कहाँ से लाओगे यार? तुम्हारी तो फैक्ट्रीज बंद है ना. So where all are you going to divert now your attention? Okay. So I have finished with my basic slides. So this is where China finds itself and Xi Jinping finds himself in his third term, that he has people who are disgusted with life. कि ये क्या हो रहा है? He has no answers except for going into zero COVID lockdown, which he claimed in his 20th Congress as a success. Now he is saying that we must learn from the people. I don't think that's, to me, that is just a sop to show that you lose a battle but win the war. Chess में नहीं करते, you sacrifice a pawn to take the queen. I think that is what he is doing. He is not going to pull back, because immediately after doing that, he pointedly talks of 14.7 million odd cases of purging through COVID, anti
Corruption.
corruption in his 10 years, and that his anti corruption drive will continue in his third term. Why are you linking these two? It's a telling statement, but it is a statement, I think, maybe let's see how this pans out, because the problems, like I was showing historically, it would change the course. There would be a series of problems, and then somebody would, and that would be the last straw on the camel's back, and some general will just decide enough is enough, knock him off, and we take over. So this is what I see as China, that it is going to have a, the students ने चख लिया है अभी, that we can force him by diversifying my strike into multiple areas rather than congregating at one place where he can target. And this is how it is going to pan out, I feel, for China, uh, as a cycle. It will become a cyclic affair, because this opening COVID with hardly any medication that worth its name that you have, and their own medical people have said that they don't have immunity. They, based on their eating habits, they don't have the kind of immunity like the rest of the South and Southeast Asians have. ये तो open statement उनका दिया हुआ है. So this is what I had to say. Let's open it up. Anything else you want to add, ask, shoot. We can
Well,
take
sir,
it forward as a
my
discussion.
my only question that I want to actually ask you, and probably more will come out with the when the answers go on, but when we discuss further into the subject. But the main thing is that the Chinese, if you look at it, have found a way of communicating a certain message. To me, that is the most critical thing, because this lockdown, they will, today it's a lockdown, tomorrow it's going to be something else, day after tomorrow is going to be something else.
Yeah.
So
See,
this is a broader symptom of a particular game that is being kind of being played in China, if I may use the word game loosely. uh, what I foresee is that the people have realized that there is a way to communicate with the government and make the government respond to you as well.
yeah, see, basically, the Chinese historically, it's in their DNA. They prefer a very strong central power. That has been in their DNA throughout their history. When I say Chinese, I'm talking of the Han Chinese. It takes a lot for them to revolt.
Yeah, yeah, very.
Historic,
Mm,
they give him all the power as long as they are getting what they want and they can get by their lives. They're not interested. That is their, it's in their genes to be like that.
yeah,
But when the strife starts, like historically, like I had said, I had taken the change of the course of the Huangho. That has always been historically the, it would create famine. Now, what is happening today is, you and I know only about the urban areas. There is no news coming out from the rural areas. What has happened to the rural area?
which is
Bulk of
most.
had come to the urban area. Rural area में क्या हो रहा है? What? How has this lockdown and everything, which would have gone on even in the rural areas, hit his food security? Have they been able to go out to the fields to plant? So this is, like you pointed out, what you say is a revolt. I would look it as a people, a society in strife. In the good old days, it used to be because of ancient times, olden days in the Chinese history, it used to be because of famine, and they would be in strife. So they would be revolting. So here also you find the society actually has gone into a strife. पैसे है नहीं, काम है नहीं, they, their own figures are giving 20%. So you, it must be much more. If he's ready to share as 20%, one doesn't realize it could be much more. And if that be the case, then it is actually a society in strife. And with a person like she, they have no answer, because he's not ready. A megalomaniac like him cannot accept that he has made a mistake. He cannot accept, I have made a mistake.
I think it's interesting that you use that word again, megalomaniac. It's
He's
a
not a
it's,
megalomaniac.
yeah.
Everything is around him. I, me, myself, period.
Mm.
I have
I
to go down in history as the best ruler of China, who brought China, rejuvenated China back and made the Middle Kingdom. He doesn't realize nothing is happening. तो he सब तरफ हाथ मार रहा है. He feels there is a vacuum in south, in Middle East, so I can step in there, right? So he wants to go there, but he doesn't know that those people are also past masters in playing games here. They have been playing US versus Soviet Union for donkey's years here. So it's not going to be easy for him also. The other side also realizes, the Middle East also realizes, like Saudi Arabia, UAE, how much they depend for their own security on the US. Can China provide that security? No. So it is a very critical period, and next 6 months I expect around By April, May, it's going to be again a period of crisis as far as COVID is concerned for China. It will become a big crisis once again. अभी खोला है.
Ah,
So now the provinces will set up whatever new protocols. They were working on old protocols. So now they have to discuss with the party and set up their own protocols as to how to manage the people, what is to be done. And once you open up and everything is opened up, people start traveling, they will transmit. अभी इन्हीं में से you don't know asymptomatic, that was the word I was searching for. They are asymptomatic. You won't even know that he has got COVID now that you have stopped the tests. नहीं तो हर तीसरे दिन तो वो टेस्ट करा रहा था सबको.
hmm.
Because he knows that his Sinopharm and Sinovac are of no use. He doesn't have the money or the capability or whatever. I really don't know why he didn't reinvest in doing the mRNA, which the world over is doing. He could have done that and brought out a third vaccine. Yeah, but ये तो डेड वायरस के साथ कर रहा है. It has failed. So it's a very critical period that he is seeing. And this third term of his is going to be, as far as my reading is concerned, as there's a saying in English, well begun is half done. इसका well begun हुआ ही नहीं है. So how is his third term going to be? It's likely going to be quite rough on him and the people of China.
Let's take a couple of comments, sir, because I have some more stuff to ask you, but that concerns a larger strategic, view. And I'd like to kind of bring the conversation to that. But in the
Okay.
middle, I think there's some interesting comments that have come. Naveen Saab, thank you so much for your contribution. He says General COVID has been called the Chernobyl of China. I think the vaccine has done the same for the so-called Chinese science and tech, especially when India is able to do 4+ vaccine doses worldwide.
Thank you, Naveen, for pointing this out. Actually, that is the reason why I think it was the Ghana foreign minister or the Jamaican foreign minister
Jamaican
stated
and
that he,
Jamaican, sir.
pardon?
Jamaican,
Yeah,
sir, that lady.
Jamaican said that, no, the man, Ghana ka, where he said that he looks at India as a multinational entity. Not only did we provide those, we provided them with medicines, we provided them with food, we provided them everything to the global south. Okay. Yes, his, like I said, his Sinopharm and Sinovac. Actually, way back in January 2020, I had written a paper. If you go to USI website, click my name for a paper. I had written about this. Is it natural or man-made? In that, I had listed out that this has actually started sometime around August, September in 2019. It takes approximately a month or two, about 2 months, you can say, for somebody to realize that there is a epidemic on. It's only when more and more people start coming in and showing the same symptoms that the doctor who's recording it realizes that this is on. So sometime around September, October, they knew that there is an epidemic on. Wuhan was in the grip of it. What they talk about this doctor who died and now they are talking about him again, they
Mm-hmm.
had written a paper as far back as October, which was released sometime in December only, pointing out that there is an epidemic opening out. And why do I state that? Beginning December 2019 was when the US and China had signed a trade agreement. I think it was Article 7. Normally, you talk of natural calamities. You don't use the word ever in any trade agreement of a pandemic. And I really don't know why the US also accepted that word. That if China, main aim of that agreement was that the China will buy X amount of items from US.
Correct. Trade balance. Yeah.
Trade balance करने के लिए X amount, I think about 250 million or something they were supposed to buy by a particular time. But in the exemptions in Article 7 or Article 5, the word, I think it is 7, where the word they have used is that they will not be held to task of due to natural calamity or a pandemic. I have never seen this word used in any trade agreement. That means they already knew that the infected people had gone to most of the countries around the world. Like in Europe, it started from Italy. Where
Hmm.
did it start? North Italy. Why North Italy? The Chinese companies, Chinese people are all were based in North Italy. वहां से शुरू हुआ है. जिस जिस जगह में, यानी इनको पता था और इन्होंने भेजा है. And
हम
there
मर रहे
was
थे सब.
a thing which had come up on Twitter also, that I think LinkedIn may, that he should be held responsible for the uh, knowingly killing so many millions of people the world over. In if you take the data bank of their military hospital in Wuhan, the US had hacked it. In the cities around Wuhan, they had said 6 lakh plus deaths. ओपनली डिक्लेयर तो 80,000 ही बोला है उसने. यार कितना झूठ बोलता है. एंड आई फाउची, who's the head of the US CDC, is directly involved with that lab. Funding has gone from the US. Why do you think the US wants to hide? The funding has gone from the US. Fauci has been involved with them. It's nothing but a man-made disaster. And a disaster that he couldn't manage because he thought कि मैं pandemic बनाता हूं, मैं पहले अपना वो बना लूंगा
Vaccine.
vaccine, and I'll make money out of this pandemic. Unfortunately, vaccines failed. And you can imagine how much money has been given to the UN. There, at last count, 40 bodies of the UN, which are headed by the Chinese, or Chinese have controlling stakes in that much money they have given. ये status है. That is why his vaccine was cleared earlier, and your vaccine took almost about 8 months after that to be cleared.
That is though, sir. I
And
mean that is.
WHO ने clear नहीं किया.
Yeah, yeah. That is. I
And
mean that. Is,
but the best part was that the vaccines which were sent to the countries were rejected by the countries. And that's how even before WHO gave the clearances, your local people around अपने neighborhood में जो countries थे like Nepal, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, they started taking it.
the best thing is people who've taken Indian vaccines have snapped out of it beautifully.
Yeah. So they found that it was very good. They started taking.
I'm
Neighborhood
not.
में excluding Pakistan, they all started taking it, and they themselves accepted that this is the best vaccine. And because by word of mouth it travels very fast in the global south, you were able to give it to all. The biggest problem with the I will add one last point. What the why West is being held to task by the global south today? The vaccines have a life. It has to be consumed within that life.
Ah,
Like similarly, till the it is sealed, you may seal that bottle, but that sealed bottle also has a life. I think initially it was about 6 months or 7 months, something
six
like that.
months.
It has a
6 months.
life. The
Hmm.
moment you open the bottle, you got to use it.
Hmm.
So that's why they open a bottle only when 10 people, because in our bottles you had uh,
10
p-
doses.
10 doses were available. So 10 लोगों को खड़ा करके यूज कर दो. अगर वो नहीं यूज हुआ, that bottle has to be thrown at the end of the day into the drain,
Ji.
right? So that is why, despite all the idiotic pressures that our foolish political parties and the foolish paid woke media was raising, that हमारा नहीं है, उनको जा रहा है. यार, इंडिया के अंदर, किसी कंट्री के अंदर, you have a capacity to give X number of vaccines in a day. बिकॉज यू नीड ट्रेन्ड मैन पावर. हर कोई एरा गैरा नथु हेरा आके तुमको वैक्सीन थोड़ी दे सकता. यू नीड हेल्थ सर्विस पीपल. सो यू हैव एक्स नंबर ऑफ हेल्थ सर्विस पीपल, सो यू कैन यूज ओनली वाई नंबर ऑफ डोजेस इन. एंड सो यू कैन कैलकुलेट दैट 6 महीने के अंदर मैं कितना डोज दे सकता हूं. जो बच गए हैं भेज दो. दैट इज व्हाट यू सेंट टू द ग्लोबल साउथ.
And why
Whereas
not?
the, whereas the West and the US sat on 3 times the dose that was required for their own damn this thing. My own relatives, they would say they have seen them dumping it into the drains. यार, एक
Canada,
बंदा गया
first.
उसको शॉट दे दिया और कोई बंदे है नहीं, ड्रेन में जा रहा है. No, this is the difference in attitude. You have
Canada
to,
was the worst, sir.
US,
Canada dug a
US
hole.
dumping in the drain.
Canada dug a hole in the beach in one of the beaches in the
Yeah,
north, and they just
to
dumped all the vials inside and covered it.
it has a life.
I mean, the
That is what it is.
hypocrisy, the
Yeah.
hypocrisy. But
मैं
sir,
बचना हूं. सी द सेम थिंग यू आर सीइंग ना, व्हेन रशिया के साथ हो रहा है, हमारा चाइना के साथ हुआ, अफगानिस्तान में हो रहा है, वो तुम्हारी लड़ाई है. हमारा रशिया के साथ हो गया तो दुनिया की लड़ाई है. सो द सेम इज द केस. मैं अपना बचा लूं, बाकी जाए भाड़ में. अब नाउ दे सडनली रियलाइज दैट दे आर लूजिंग द ग्लोबल साउथ.
they've lost it, sir.
Yeah, nobody from global south has supported their fight in the Russia Ukraine fight. Is not.
People
The
are now
writers in New York Times and बोलते रहे the global support. There is no global support. यार, तुम्हारे ही बंदे हैं और तुम्हारे दो चार चिम्मक जो हैं वही हैं. बाकी तो more than 140 की 180 countries are not even supporting you. यार.
now the support for Russia is actually coming out pretty overtly.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the Africans are openly saying we side with Russia and stuff like that. So that hypocrisy part. But China, one thing is very interesting, and you kind of hinted on towards this, that the acceptance of logic. And I mean, I know you appreciated this word, and actually, one of the viewers is also megalomaniac. I want to dwell
Yeah.
upon this. See, yeah, it's a good, laughing point as well. But the main thing that I want to come to is the megalomaniac behavior of a person is pretty much exactly the same as what you saw in 1930s and early 40s in Germany.
Yeah.
Is exactly what you saw in the late 40s and the early 50s
In
in
Soviet Union.
in the Soviet Union.
Yeah.
Is exactly what you are seeing today in places like
Xi
Pakistan,
Jinping.
places like
So see, Pakistan army is slightly different. There
thoda
is
sa
no
I
single
would say they're a bit
person.
nicer. They're a bit nicer.
No, no. They see Pakistan army is different. We'll touch on that. But
Yeah.
इसका तो पूरा मतलब वही है ना, exact same है. If he looks up to Mao, because he would have had a tremendous psychological impact. Like I said, his dad was a big shot in the CPC. His mother quit his father so that his two sisters could survive. But he was young. Would he have understood why his mother quit his father, dumped his father? He and his father and his brother went through tremendous, you could say, humiliation right through school and everything. So you face a mental trauma. Which way you swing, somebody becomes mature very early in life, and he takes a call that if I reach a particular level, I will never repeat this with my fellow men. It is very damaging. I must not do it. The other one is that I will show them I am worse or better than them and I am the boss. I will become the boss. Here, this is what has happened with
Yeah.
she.
Thank you for bringing that out. That's what I wanted to ask you. It's about a personality. I won't call it cult, but as a personality behavior which is kind of influencing these actions.
See, the cult automatically follows, like what
A cult
happened with
is a
Hitler.
form- Yeah, yeah.
See, what happened with Hitler? If you're not with him, you're dying, तो जुड़ जाते हैं. And then when he got defeated,
सब
you
अलग हो गए.
dump. No, it took a while. You must go through the Valkyrie documents.
Oh yeah, yeah. See, the
It
people
took a
separate.
while for the people to accept. It was only around in the 50s that it started, mid to late 50s that it
Yeah,
started. Okay. It didn't change so fast. Those people who had tried to assassinate Hitler, they were still looked down upon as traitors. And the children went through a lot of trauma in school,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
even after they had lost the war. Okay. So, because the mental makeup takes a while to change. Now, Hitler achieved this from 30s till about 45, 10 to 15 years. This is the period this chap is also doing the same thing. But now he is facing that strife because of COVID, because of collapse of his economy. How the society changes, what happens, this over a period of time it will happen. But
So
for a megalomaniac to understand that becomes difficult, because वो उसके psyche में नहीं है इस तरह से logically सोचना. The initial victories that Hitler got was thanks to his generals. But then he decided after the initial victories that the German generals don't understand. And then he started overriding his generals, and that's when they faced the defeat. लॉजिक कौन बताएगा उसको? तो इधर ही इसको लॉजिक कौन बताएगा कि जो कर रहा है गलत कर रहा है? यानी
indeed.
learn, if you don't want to look at India, यार look at Taiwan.
सर क्या बोल रहे हो
Taiwan
सर?
कितनी हान चाइनीज है.
नहीं
How
सर, क्या?
successfully they have countered COVID. Just learn a lesson from across the straits, yaar. Hardly about 100 miles across, yaar. You don't even have to look at India. Look at Taiwan, your own uh, brethren, yaar.
Nope. Look at Pakistan. They didn't care.
पाकिस्तान का तो पता ही नहीं यार कितने मर गए, क्या हो गया, कुछ नहीं पता. But over a period of time, people have realized that Southeast Asian, because of the type of spices and food that you eat and the spices that you eat, it builds up immunity over time. Hopefully पाकिस्तानियों में भी आ गया होगा, because उसके कितने मरे पता ही नहीं.
That is one side. Pakistan is also a rather rural population, and rather hardy population in terms of this and that.
कोविड इसका कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ता यार. You can get it.
That's what
जिसको
some
मिल गया तो फैल जाएगा.
hell jayega. Naveen sir, thank you so much again for your contribution. Genocide looks a simple solution to be more effective. Vaccines, do you see Z coming to that compromise? What will have to go wrong before that happens? Oh my God, what will have to? Naveen,
Naveen, I
go on.
don't think a megalomaniac like him is going to even think about that. It's a terrible, terrible, terrible loss of face if he has to import vaccines. So unless he is removed from the scenes, importing of vaccines to hoga nahi. I am surprised. Forget importing of vaccines. They do have a good hold on pharmaceuticals and other things. They also have. Let's not wish it away that they don't have. After all, डेड वायरस के साथ तो उन्होंने 2 वैक्सीन बनाए थे ना. तो mRNA टेक्नोलॉजी के साथ क्यों नहीं बना सकते? बाकी सब तो चोरी करते रहते हो अपने डिफेंस टेक्नोलॉजी के लिए, तो ये भी चोरी करके बना लो. किसने रोका है?
That comes in with another question that somebody's asked, which says, why can't they use Russian Sputnik vaccine? That's a very interesting question. No limits relationship. यार जाके पुतिन को बोल भाई मेरे को जरा थोड़ी वैक्सीन वैक्सीन दे.
No. They look down upon the Russians. Let's be
Why,
very.
sir? Aren't they best friends?
No, बोलने के लिए है. बोलने के लिए है. You also know in the last some earlier talk we had said how many battles they have fought along the boundary. बोलने के लिए है. For them, Russians are barbarians, and they really look down upon that bearded uncouth fellow, they call them. Okay.
They're old, bearded, ugly man.
Ugly
Literal
man.
translation of what the Chinese call the Russians.
Call the Russians. So they will not. And like I said, it's a loss of face.
Yeah.
He has told his people our vaccines are the best in the world. So how will he import? So
And he
if they
sold
have
those.
to import, this man has to be eliminated. If he is eliminated, then they may import. बट लाइक आई सेड इंपोर्ट क्यों करना चाहते हो? इतने टेक्नोलॉजी तुमने चोरी कर लिए हैं, हैक करके तुम एमआरएनए का भी वैक्सीन का टेक्नोलॉजी चोरी करके अपना बना लो, किसने रोका है तुमको? बना क्यों नहीं रहे हो? दैट इज माय बिगेस्ट क्वेश्चन.
वो गलत कर दिया ना सर, वो रॉन्ग नंबर हो गया. ही वांटेड टू एक्चुअली हैक इनटू सीरम इंस्टीट्यूट, बट वो लाइन डिस्कनेक्ट हो गया ना, वो वेंट इनटू एम्स.
नो नो, वो अलग है. आई एम सेइंग
I mean, yeah, see, I beat your point. I mean, I'm exactly
कोवैक्सीन,
beating the point. If you can
कोवैक्सीन
hack
वगैरह,
something here,
कोविशील्ड,
yeah,
या कोविशील्ड, कहीं से भी तुम
कहीं का भी.
एस्ट्राजेनेका का ले लो, फाइजर का ले लो, मॉडर्ना का ले लो, कहीं भी हैक कर लो यार,
Indeed, sir, indeed.
और बना लेना था. अभी तक तो बन जाना था. तुमने बैठ के ढिंडोरा पीट के तो सक्सेस करके तुमने, सी दैट वाज द अदर लॉस ऑफ फेस, कि तुमने तो वुहान में 2021 लास्ट ईयर यू हैड अ बिग bash that we have won.
Pool
Our
party.
vaccines are the best in the world and we have won, and Sinopharm and Sinovac, and suddenly if they find out that you're making, playing a devil's advocate for him, that you're making a new vaccine, then they would have thought कि क्या है. तो पता नहीं अब इन बेचारों का क्या होगा. I pity the people, no?
Sir, I think CCP is not weakening for now, and the protests will face same as the square killings.
No, how many places will you do that? Like I said, Raghunandan, it's a nice point you're making, but Tiananmen was different because it was just in Tiananmen Square where people had gathered. Okay, after Hu Yaobang. Hu Yaobang was earlier the premier, was made the general secretary, and he was opening up a lot. He was an economist. So that's how he was thrown out, and Zhanyang was brought in, and then he died. Actually, there is, people feel that he was eliminated, but whatever be the case, from the time he had been there and he was opening up and taking lessons from Soviet Union's Gorbachev's perestroika and glasnost, the whole lot of people who had been out to study and come back and other things, they were also agitating for more freedom. It is not that it started in 86, it started much earlier.
Much earlier.
When he died, that's when the whole lot of people came and congregated at Tiananmen Square from April till June, and then finally 4th of June, I think it was, or 6th of June, when the tanks overran. But please remember, 38th Group Army of Beijing military region, those days it used to be military region, did not open fire, and 27 Group Army was sent to surround 38 Group Army because they were worried, Deng Xiaoping was worried that they might support the locals. And then he had brought in other group armies from Beijing, Shenyang, Jinan, and other places to really sort the people out. In this case, it spread almost about 30, 40 different cities, different places, no one place. Are you going to do a shootout in all those 40 places? Look at the furor that will take place in the world today.
But
It
as
would
you
have
said,
been,
the purges will go on, sir. So he's going to use all his
yeah. So
technology, AI.
instead of going openly, he is going to purge them using the surveillance, face recognition, voice recognition, and gate recognition. These are the three which he has done, developed software with AI and bulk data analysis, and they've already started targeting the people and tracking your mobile. Tracking your mobile.
How's the situation in Macau, Hong Kong, and rural parts, sir?
As bad as the other places here. That's what I can say, because there is no message which is coming out from there. Hong Kong, by the way, has been cut off from the mainland. They were not permitted to go across. They are hoping now that it has opened up, they will be allowed to. Like I said, inter-province travel and other things has been lifted, but the protocols have not yet been shared with the provinces. Once the protocols are shared, then we can see what will happen. There's no news which comes out from other places what is going on. हांगकांग में तो after that pro democracy protest, तो the suppression has been enormous. So oh, people, I don't think, have come out anywhere in protests, but lockdown is lockdown everywhere.
But Hong Kong has also been through its wave and deaths and stuff like
A
that.
whole lot of waves and
They've
deaths.
had a
Whole lot of
terrible,
waves and
terrible.
deaths. Even when the pro democracy protests were going on, the deaths were taking place of COVID.
Yeah, but the about I think about 4 5 months ago, when people were on the streets in terms of in front of the hospitals because they just didn't have any place. That was, I think, a quite a
Yeah, yeah.
bad scenario.
No,
And
that is what I am worrying now for the rest of China.
I mean, I don't know if you saw that video. So I shared this, I think, on my Twitter page as well, where I there were photographs of Beijing in some fever clinic. People were hooked on to
Drips.
syringes, and they were just sitting in the waiting room with a TV
They're
through
lying
near.
in corridors, sitting in waiting room.
If that
There's no
is,
place.
I mean, I don't think that's happening very far off, very widely. But if it's even happening in one or two, three places, it can tell you the amount of
No,
spread which is.
it must be happening everywhere. That's why he's still got the zero COVID, because suddenly when he opened up last year, he suddenly realized that they had not won on COVID
Yeah,
and the spikes have started. No, I just showed you their own in the slide, the deaths. The death rate is very high,
3 million is
and
a
that is
lot.
per quarter, and sudden spike of 3 million. In a 14 to 17 million deaths in a quarter, matlab, it's it is a point to consider. इतने लोग तो मरते नहीं है यार, साल में मरते हैं, ये तो क्वार्टर बाय क्वार्टर दिखा रहा है.
Wang Ho is also called the sorrow of China.
यह बिल्कुल सही. It is the sorrow because अब तो नहीं है, but it keeps diverting, and that is why they had a canal made, as they started making that canal linking Huangho and Yangtze around 600 700 AD. They made that so that water नीचे से ऊपर ले जा सकते हैं, and ऊपर के एरिया में they can still provide, but it didn't succeed because those days, ठीक है, तुमने canal तो बना दिया, will the water flow? Water flows as per the gradient. So you need to make it in steps to raise the water, fill it up and raise the water. That kind of technology they did not have. That's why when you see the slide that I gave, the moment Huang Ho, and Huang Ho is like our Ghaggar. The estuary is very wide. Ghaggar, of course, is because of the vast expanse of the old ancient Saraswati River. Ghaggar, and in the Pakistan area, it's called the Hakra.
Hakra.
The Hakra. Okay. It's a vast expanse of the bed. So the water channel can shift at any side when the floods occur. Here, the estuary is very wide, going up from Bohai Sea in the north right up to the sea below and Yellow Sea below, and it keeps shifting. And whenever it shifts, you have a problem. So now they have tamed it by making holes, lot of technology they have. So they have connected whole lot of rivers, and that is why he keeps connecting these rivers and everything with canals.
So, is it possible to have a Pakistan-style militancy or insurgency in China? If yes, which groups or areas it could happen?
No, it's not in their DNA. The only place it could have happened is if the Muslim world had supported the Uyghurs. But
I was
since
about to
they
say
are,
that.
yeah, it could have happened there, but it didn't happen. And Tibetans may Khampas were the only ones who used to be the fighters. Actually, Khampas used to be the rulers of Tibet,
Right.
and the uh, Dalai Lama used to be the spiritual head. It was, I think, if I remember correctly, the sixth Dalai Lama,
Yeah.
when the temporal and the spiritual head became one. And from then on, the potency of their strength started reducing. So even it was only the Khampas who fought initially against the PLA
Congress.
in 50 when they came in, and then the famous Khampa rebellion 56 to 59. It was the Khampas who rebelled. So I don't know whether today they'll be able to do that. It's difficult. Rest of the areas, the Hans have actually, what has happened is the Hans have procreated so much, and they are spread all over. They dominate virtually the present day China. उसके उनके ब्लड में नहीं है ये. That's what I was indicating in my slide. उनके ब्लड में नहीं है. They accept a central strong authority as long as their life progresses easily. Oh, you tell him he is not supposed to do A B C D E, but सर पे छत होगा, खाना मिल जाएगा, पढ़ाई लिखाई हो जाएगी, he is happy. It's when that goes, when it happens in the olden days due to natural calamity, and I'm looking at COVID now equivalent to a natural calamity, that they have no answer for it. Answers are available, but the megalomaniac that he is, he cannot accept that he was wrong, so he will not accept that as an answer, which is very simple. Like Naveen had mentioned, that you import the vaccines. So he is not going to. Even the Russian vaccine he will not import. किसी का नहीं लेगा वो, क्योंकि I'm the best. That's what he thinks. So उनका अपने में लड़ेंगे. So that is where I had said that somewhere the PAP or the PLA has to come up in support with the people, and then the fight will start.
Then it will start, yes, sir.
और these days तो वो सब करने की जरूरत नहीं है. Somebody might just eliminate Xi Jinping. At some point in time, it could happen because the survival of the CPC depends on that.
Yeah, it's a, I mean, criminal network at the end of it. Even after trying for years, the West has not found an alternate supplier for solar batteries and rare earth minerals. In the future, China will be like Saudi, Russia, with monopoly of few commodities.
See, I'll give you my version, play the devil's advocate on the green technology that we talk about. Rare earth. It's environmentally most damaging to recover the rare earths.
Yes.
Most of the other countries, India also has it, US also has it, Australia has
Everyone
it,
has
there are a large number of countries who have it, but they avoid doing that because it is environmentally most damaging. चाइना को कोई चिंता ही नहीं है, वो तो कुछ सोचता ही नहीं है, तो वो तो that's how he controls that much. That is number one. Number two, solar. Again, the issue is he has subsidized it so much because he has slave labor who's making it, and he decides the price. So that's how he has captured your solar panel market. Otherwise it is not cheap to make it. When you go about making it, it's not cheap. Next, making the lithium batteries. Again, the lithium ore, and it's environmentally very degrading, because after taking out the ore you need a dry area where you have to leave that with the water, and then it dries, and then it takes almost a year or two. Once that is done, unless you're doing it in an arid area, thank you, that land is over. You can't use it for anything else, so you got to keep. So it's environmentally quite degrading, and in that area people should not be living, because then the groundwater table gets bad. Okay. China has got no such worries, and it goes into countries like Bolivia, Peru, and those places, and gives them huge amount of money, with those people not realizing what is happening to their own environment. The issue about all these green EV, electric vehicle batteries, good. How much is the number? What is the size of the grid that you got to make just to charge these batteries? Have you thought about that? It is over and above what you are normally using today. वो कहाँ से आएगा? Battery is over. How do you recycle it? The battery has a life. You can keep recharging it, but it has a life of 10 years. After
Yeah.
it's over.
E-waste, we have no plans of recycling e-waste.
How do you recycle that?
Yeah.
We talk of wind energy. Excellent. Do you realize how many tons of steel that you want just to set up one tower? How much of iron ore that is required? How much of electricity that is required just to make that?
It takes some 8 years for that thing to even compensate for the amount of
Yeah.
effort
No,
put inside.
life ही 10 years है.
उसकी
तो
total life
लाइफ
10
ही
years.
उसका 10 years है. वो 8-9 साल में तुमने रिकवर किया, फिर खर्चा करो. ये तो वेस्ट की देन है यार. वो खुद तो नहीं बना रहे अपने.
ये
They
तो
are
सर,
not changing their lifestyle. And today, with the Ukraine war coming, the consumption of coal has gone through the roof in Europe.
who cares now?
Who cares? Nobody cares.
They want to ask Greta Thunberg to please give us permission to switch on our nuclear plants.
अभी वो
So,
तो इनके I was just seeing today evening गोरान कैसिच काफी अपलोड करता रहता है ऑसेंट से. पेरिस बिजली है नहीं. पेरिस was in darkness and he put it up. The
yeah,
latest Osint movie shot of Paris, it's in darkness. So it is nice to know green energy hai, sab hai. But if you're ready to select a place where there's going to be environment degradation and you will not keep people out there, karo. So you have to look at certain alternatives and other things. That's
yeah.
where
Hmm.
maybe the subsidy should go towards hydrogen fuel. It will not be that damaging to the environment. And hydrogen fuel you can use for everything, for the smallest of the vehicles and the biggest of your vehicles.
Aircraft. Even aircraft, they're saying.
Aircrafts, yes, even aircrafts you can use it. वो environment को damage नहीं करेगा. It is expensive, so that's where I said subsidies are needed at the correct place.
Correct, sir.
है ना?
This is contribution as well. Thank you so much. And a question to you, sir. General off topic. I really appreciate your historical context setting in every session. I must say that's a constant appreciation that you get, sir. Is it possible to do a China 101 relevant to us, or please suggest a good reference?
China 101 मतलब I didn't understand.
Naveen Saab, if you can please let us know anything in particular in detail. I think he's basically looking for an understanding of
One on one. One on
101,
one.
how China thinks.
How China thinks. उसके लिए यार एक दो ऐसे सेटिंग नहीं होगा. You have to study their history, how they have lived through, how they have fought, what they have done, and then you arrive at a interpretation that this is how they think. What they think. There is one beautiful book I can recommend to you. When China Rules the World. It is a book written by Martin Jacques, Jacques, 2009 का पब्लिकेशन है. वो अंदर कहीं पड़ा होगा मेरे लाइब्रेरी में, अगले सेशन में निकाल के दिखा दूंगा. Right? It's When China Rules the World. Read it. When we talk of the Middle Kingdom concept, it's a very dangerous concept. Okay. It means that the ancient Middle Kingdom means the king. You came, you wanted to trade with China. So you have to first kowtow to him. मतलब घुटने टेक के मत्था टेकना है उसके सामने, उसको गिफ्ट्स देने हैं. उसके बाद he will tell you which area, what will you trade, not what you have brought. He will decide what will you trade and for how much, and how much will you be giving for that trade annually to the emperor.
Amen.
Okay, this is their middle kingdom concept कि ये पूरे एरिया मेरा है और मैं डिसाइड करूंगा तुम क्या करोगे. उसके अंदर दे लुक एट 5 circles. In the center is the royal seat. That is the first circle. Next circle is the royal lands. Next circle is the vassal states. 3 हो गए. चौथा is the barbarian allies, and the 5th circle is all barbarians. Okay. ये है उनका कॉन्सेप्ट. वो आज भी उसी कॉन्सेप्ट में चलते हैं. उनसे कभी बात कर लो, वो दे विल say that they are the world का best and there is nobody else in this world, no civilization, nothing they need to learn from anybody. जब कोई ये सोच लेके चलता है ना, it's very damaging that I have nothing to learn. You have always got everything and anything to learn from anybody. Ravan was one of the most well-read persons of his time. And when he had this ego that I am the best, क्या हुआ ultimately? मर गया. Even when he was dying, Lord Ram asked Lakshman to go and take advice from him on statecraft,
Yeah.
how to rule the state. Okay. बहुत तो this is their problem. Yes, they have given two, three things to this world that we have to grant. First is bureaucracy. The best were selected, they had the exams and everything, and the best was selected based on merit on bureaucracy. Unfortunately, today, this megalomaniac has destroyed that. What he has brought in is me. Who is loyal to me? Merit takes a backseat.
Sioux.
Loyalty to loyalty to him. Rest is gone. Next, they provided the written word, the written scripts. How to is not just the how to write, publishing. That is was taken to Gutenberg, and वहां से फिर बड़ा publishing शुरू हुआ.
Gutenberg Bible, the first.
Yeah. And last, gunpowder. Your dog is wanting to go out. Anyway, last is gun gunpowder. They never used that. They used it only for their normal patake. Gunpowder was taken and used by the West, and rest is history. वो अब कितनी पिक्चरें हॉलीवुड में बना दे कि हमने यूज किया, बम बनाया, घंटा कुछ बनाया, केवल छोटे मोटे पटाखे चलाते थे. And just off the record, the father of rocketry is Tipu Sultan. First time ever in the world, rockets were used in Tipu Sultan's wars with the British. अब बाकी उन्होंने हिस्ट्री चेंज कर दी, किसी और को बोलते हैं उसने रॉकेट खड़ा किया ना. Mysore wars, when Tipu fought with the British, he is the one who used rockets, who got the rockets made, and he used them as rockets because he didn't have that much of, you could say, the resources available to make more cannons. Otherwise, cannons ही बनते थे वो उन दिनों के artillery guns. तो you require a whole lot of material and other things. तो नहीं मिल रहा था, तो he made rockets. Yeah.
No, I think this is done. Yeah. There may not be a May 23 in the chair for the emperor when you have those many people begging for you. Then anything is possible.
Yeah, but like I mentioned, you see like each of the kingdoms, you find it got overthrown. The river had changed course, 30-40 साल, and then May 2023, I can't predict, but yes, COVID बढ़ जाएगा. It will spike. वो तो होगा. अब वो कोविड से मरता है तो बात अलग है, वो मैं नहीं कह सकता अगर कोविड से मर गया तो. But it will need a armed insurrection. And if the PRC feels that to survive they don't need him, then they may eliminate him.
That is the most critical thing because their aim would be to stay in power.
Yes. So the question that the people have to take a call, and those who have the weapons with them have to take a call. That was the last line we have given. Do you want to have a PRC as an average declining power in the 21st century? Or do you want a China as a rising power by the end of this century? That the people have to decide, and the people with weapons to overthrow the PRC have to decide. That is left to the people to decide. क्या करना है उन्होंने? If they continue with the PRC, it is going to be an average declining par. The decoupling is moving very fast. The last who will decouple would be Japan and South Korea and Taiwan. Taiwan, whether it will decouple, I really don't know. The Japan and South Koreans have quite a deep investments going on, still going on in mainland China. But the others have started decoupling very fast because they don't know how to handle uh, a typical back to communist China. This was a capitalist China that they were dealing with under Deng Xiaoping, Jiang Zemin, and Hu Jintao. Now they have to deal with a communist China because he's going back to the days of the Red. That's why I named him the Red Emperor. You're going back to the days of pure communism, hardcore communism, Leninism and Marxism. So you're going back to that area. Leninism for political and Marxism for economy. So their private companies can't survive. So how will the MNCs survive? They will have to decouple. But decoupling takes a little time because you have to set up what you want to do, train those people, get that infrastructure in place before you decouple. So that decoupling will start and it will carry on. So by the end of his third tenure, the decoupling would have been complete. This much I can guarantee the way he is going.
USA government also has some involvement in this Wuhan stupidity. That's why the panic deep state started huge sensitive censorship on that and didn't exactly openly blame China for it.
Very correct, Amey. That's what I had mentioned, that US investment and especially Mr. Fauci, Dr. Fauci, who's the head of the CDC, he was directly involved with the Wuhan virology lab. And by the way, France is the one who gave the money and set it up. And American investment, hell of a lot were there. So they didn't want things to come out because then the world would have started asking that, why are you doing this? This is biological warfare. And you are a signatory to the Biological Warfare and Chemical Warfare Convention in the UN. And you have violated this by, they're doing it not in their country, they're doing it in other countries. There were talks, there were a lot of chatter on the net of the number of biological labs they had set up in Ukraine also, and especially in that Azov plant, steel plant. So you're very right. That's why they're still not openly coming out and telling. And uska to Hunter Biden is involved in Ukraine. सो ये यूएस भी दूध का धुला नहीं है, सब तरफ सारा कुछ करता रहता है यार. उसको मेन थिंग था, उसको ये पता नहीं था कि चाइना में ये हो जाएगा. द वे इट हैपेंड, एज पर माय assessment of then what paper I had written in January 2020 was that they were in the lab, all this testing was being done on a pangolin. And once they had done the tests, the beta would obviously be very wild at it. They used to slaughter the animals because it would be carrying a whole lot of viruses. But the Chinese love to eat all these exotic animals. And this was taken across the Yangtze River. Wuhan is split by that Yangtze River. So this was taken across. And वहाँ पे इनका वो market था, famous market where they would sell all these exotic animals, and it was sold. And that's where what then the chatter which had come up on their Weibo, that's how it spread.
So, two-part question. Please clarify a larger point. WHO, under the influence of China, hid COVID during critical initial weeks. WHO also incorrectly flagged Indian medicines for deaths in Africa, which was later unfounded. How can we reduce this negative influence and exert some positive influence of our own? Have we begun?
I don't know whether we have begun. We should follow the Chiang Zemin route, start investing, start giving more money, then you will start having your stakes
More
and you will
influence.
start dictating things. See, Indian pharmaceutical companies will always be under pressure. Don't just look at China and WHO, the West also. The West also, the pharmaceutical companies, it's a huge mafia. Even today, like despite the present government having said that generic medicines should be made available, it has not caught on. It's still not caught on in a big way in India itself. You will not find those generic medicines. Milta nahi hai. Aane nahi denge wo log. Because it hits their market. And it's dominated by the pharmaceuticals. We also have our own mafia within inside the country also. No, the pharmaceuticals. Why will they permit?
Yeah, yeah.
जो 400 रुपए में बेच रहा है वो 40 रुपए में मिल जाएगा तो उसके तो गया ना. So, but if you have to control a narrative, you have to start investing there. In one of my earlier talks, I had also mentioned when we talk how to control the channel, which I had said that uh, investment doesn't mean you don't need to go and buy. You invest, no? हम क्या है वेदांता जा रहा है पूरा माइन खरीदना है मेरे को. Why? रहने दो ना लोकल के साथ. तुम वो लोकल के साथ बोलो मैं भी तुमको पैसे देता हूं दोनों साथ मिलके करेंगे. शो एंड क्राई होगा ही नहीं. पता ही नहीं चलेगा लोगों को कि यू हैव कंट्रोलिंग स्टेक. एक और तुम अपनी एक कंपनी सी बना लो. अपने इंडिया में तो कहीं से भी रजिस्ट्रार और सोसाइटीज के पास चले जाओ, कोई भी कंपनी रजिस्टर कर लो, अपना बंदा खड़ा कर लो, बोलो 26% मैं दे रहा हूँ, 26% ये दे रहा है, 52% आपके हो गए. ऑन पेपर 26% है आपका, 26 52% हो गए आपका, बाकी उसके उसने अपना दे दिया. बट यू विल हैव कंट्रोलिंग स्टेक्स, यू विल बी ऑन द बोर्ड ऑफ डायरेक्टर्स, यू विल डिसाइड व्हाट इज टू बी डन. So this is the way you have to think. Look at Arcelor अपना मित्तल when he wanted to buy Arcelor, कितना hue and cry हुआ था. क्यों खरीदने जा रहे थे? उनसे बात करके बोल देते कि मर्जर में मर्जर्स के लिए क्यों जा रहे थे, M&A के लिए क्यों गए. इनिशियल फेज में यू कुड हैव स्टार्टेड बाय सेइंग दैट ओके आई विल डू दिस करके इन्वेस्ट करके लोकल के साथ रखते और धीरे 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 8-10 साल के अंदर खरीद लेते. यूएन क्राई नहीं होता. सोच बदलना है, किस तरह से काम करना है. Just because the other side doesn't want you to control or you to buy does not mean that you can't take controlling stakes.
Indeed, sir. Sir, we are at about 1 hour 22 minutes. We'll just run through a couple of questions with a
Yeah, sure,
sort of
sure,
a
sure.
quick comment. It's like gold rush in reverse. India should share shovels for Xi's fall. People
Oh,
really don't like Xi Jinping.
yeah.
What do I, by the way? So,
It's not a surprise.
yeah.
Yeah.
Sir, Chinese show much superior tech in space, tech, mobile manufacturing, and EV car segment. But how come their military tech is low reliability, and how reliable and capable is their hypersonic missile tech?
See, रॉकेट्स बना लिए हैं तो स्पेस में चले जाओगे आप. Once you are able to place a uh, satellite at a geosynchronous orbit or a geostationary orbit, you have the capacity to go into
Capacity.
the
Yeah,
space,
yeah,
right? So you can build on that. तो इसमें क्या होता है, engine के thrusts are divided into multiple stages, 3 स्टेज 4 स्टेज मे बी 5 स्टेज. तो वो स्टेज है. तो you're not looking at a particular engine developing all that thrust. So it's multiple. It is how the segments break. You got to achieve that. So that they have achieved. When you're looking at aircraft, when you're looking at ships, when you're looking at hypersonic missiles, it is that one engine which has to give that thrust, or two engines which are there which have to give that thrust. वो discard नहीं होते. वहां पे they have a problem. They have not yet been able to achieve that. We have also not been able to achieve that. let's be very clear, it's not easy. It requires a lot of input in R&D. China has been doing reverse engineering and trying to absorb that technology and do it. It has failed. Uh, till now, the J-20, which is supposedly the stealth fighter, is was with the Russian engine. Now they have put their own engine. Let's see. So that's why when we as defense analysts, when we hear that he has done his hyperglide, it's a demonstration. So you may have stolen some engine from somewhere or taken engine from somebody, taken from Russia and done it. जब प्रोड्यूस करने करोगे कैसे करोगे?
Those engines are not that, and even Russia, sir, their space tech. I mean, the Americans. I remember watching the details about this in the 1969 when they went to the moon. They had these huge Saturn. The Saturn rocket had these huge engines. Each engine used to produce about some 4 million pounds of thrust.
Yeah.
The Russians couldn't figure that out, so they had 32 small engines that used to build up the first stage. So but their smaller engines were absolutely brilliant in
Yeah.
terms of their
So
fuel efficiency and stuff like that.
no, see, that is why what I'm saying. No? You have a first stage, you have a second stage, you have a third stage, and then you get into the outer space. Outer space, you don't require that much of thrust. Halke thrust se bhi you can give your direction. Vector thrust se you can give that direction, and then retro thrust to land somewhere or get into some place. So he wants to show. So yes, space he has achieved. You have to grant him that he has achieved that. After all, he has launched so many satellites and he's creating a global grid for his Baidu system.
Mm.
So he has achieved that. But that doesn't translate to heavy engines for the vehicles on ground.
So,
That is his problem.
most important point, we missed that the people aren't as patient anymore. Times have changed. It's a global phenomenon.
Yeah, that's why what I was saying is that it would take 40 years then for it to change. It's not going to take that
It's just
much now.
yeah.
Yeah, because the times have changed. Because like I was mentioning in one of the talks, I think yahin pe diya tha or somewhere else I was giving, where I had said that 2018 I had gone to Beijing at that time. I was in Sichuan University and then Chengdu. So the person who was with me in Sichuan University, who was the number two in the deputy in the South Asia head that they had branch international affairs. He and his parents had been were quite high up in the provincial Communist Party. So when we were driving out, not inside, because everything is under surveillance, even the guest room where I was staying, except for inside the guest room, outside in the corridor, you had, and all through the university, you had cameras everywhere, classes, you name it, wherever you went, except for the washrooms. The corridors of the washroom also had cameras. Everything पूरा मतलब the Chengdu city itself was full of cameras, surveillance cameras everywhere. And 2018 की बात कर रहा हूँ मैं. So we were driving in his personal car and he was driving and I was sitting next to him. We were going out sightseeing somewhere weekend mein. So he mentioned the biggest worry is the young people. He said even they have seen a slightly rough times. The good times started mid 1990s onwards. The good times started. So he says the young people are the ones who were born in the 90s. They have not seen the rough time when they didn't have money. And the biggest fear has always been that how will these young people respond when money is not available with them, and which is what is the strife which is going on today, what you see.
So, last couple of questions. The Han were always prolific in procreation. One child policy changed that.
Yeah, one child policy changed that, and that was we brush it away. Tang Xiaoping, we say yes, he was a good strategist, But the one child policy was implemented with full force of the state. They couldn't bother whether you had delivered a child or not delivered a child. After a particular age, you were neutered.
They were
Man,
forced
woman,
abortion.
you were
They were,
forced to be
yeah,
neutered. Okay.
it's
So
terrible.
it was quite this thing, Tang Xiaoping, what he did during that time. And they're paying the penalty for the one child. It's not just that they're paying the penalty. You see, China has ceased to be, though he's shifting towards the capitalistic side, he's not going back to the time when typical communist party, communist state, womb to tomb, you're looked after. That's
Not the
not the
state.
case.
Yeah.
Not the case. You have to pay for everything. People can't pay. Like my LO who was there, he was doing his masters in that uh, Sichuan University. His parents were also well up, and his wife's parents were also well up in the Communist Party in Sichuan. Because of that, he went and did his graduation, undergrad, he did in Canada, and he came back. That was funded by the party. He couldn't take his wife. After school खत्म करने के बाद उसने शादी कर ली थी, early marriage, but he couldn't take his wife because he had to do the undergrad there. He did his undergrad there, came back here. His wife had done it here, and sorry, no, wife had also gone for undergrad there. They came back. They couldn't afford now the money for the masters. So for 4 years, he and his wife ran a fast food joint in the Sichuan Communist Party headquarters, because both parents were high up in the Communist Party. They gave him space. 4 साल उसने पैसे कमाए. उन पैसों से, now he was doing, in 2018, I'm sure you would have finished it. He was in his first year at that time, masters. He had taken up a single room with a kitchenette on rent, and he had to pay the university 2700 yuan per month just for that single room with an attached kitchenette and a toilet. There's just one room, kitchenette hai, toilet hai. That's it. That room is your bedroom, your study room, your sitting room, your everything. Or else he said we had to go to the dorm. Then he and his wife couldn't stay together. 100 yuan per month they had to pay. And he said his parents were after their blood. I met his wife also. They were not planning to have a child anytime soon because they said they can't afford it. My own that professor with whom I was, who had invited me and we used to go around, his own kids were not living with him. They were staying with his parents who lived on the outskirts of Sichuan. वहां पे rural area आ जाता है. The schools were cheaper there. He said he couldn't afford a professor, tenured professor in Chengdu University could not, Sichuan University could not afford school education of his kids. So strife तो काफी है. अब पैसे है नहीं, you are still charging the same amount, तो strife तो आएगा ही आएगा. So that's why I said ये 5 साल उसके लिए बहुत मुश्किल होंगे. कब गिरता है वो, क्या होता है वो, I can't predict.
And the last one, sir, does the general have a personal blog?
I don't write, as I can't match General Shankar. He writes. That's not in my blood. I sit, I do my research, and maybe in about a month I might write about 2 papers. So that's about all. I
I,
put it up on my Twitter account, my Facebook account, and my LinkedIn whenever my paper is published. Because I like to study, do research. I don't read one and take it. I read multiple on the same issue. I read multiple accounts. I also go through the their own government accounts to what they have had to say, and then arrive at my conclusion, what I would draw my conclusion on.
But a lot of sir's writings are there on USI website, so you can just go there and check
Yeah,
out.
I have a lot of publications. USI, Indian Defense Review. I have been writing with them. I have been writing with USI. So you will get a lot of things. My There are three books I have edited in USI. Uh, there is a monograph I've written on PLA, and of course there is one book of mine on PLA which is under publication with Lancers. I've just finished the final copy edit, awaiting from them. This is, like I said, I have always been saying understanding China is like peeling onions. You open it, something new comes out. You open it, something new comes out. What I wrote in my monograph, I have now stated something very different in this book, where I say that it is verily a dragon. It aims to burn you from inside, create strife inside you. Only then, वो हाथी के दांत है PLA, with a conscript army of 40% conscripts. You can't fight a modern war, just can't. You require professionally and very highly trained soldiers, which you can't with 40% of your people are conscripts.
Sir, I must say this was a great conversation where I think we've covered a large blackboard of China, if I may use that word.
Yeah, you were wanting to have something else, you were saying.
नहीं
Some
नहीं
other questions you had, वो फिर
the
कभी कर लेंगे.
that is there, but there is also another factor which I think I'd leave the audience with, and I think you hinted on this in the middle, but China today is in a place where China will have to make certain decisions,
Yeah,
and no matter if it does make the right decisions, it will never reach the place that the Chinese want China to go.
it can't. See, by the time they take the decision, the decoupling would have taken place.
So there's no
And
good time.
the complete Chinese economy had always been dependent on export. 80 to 85% of their GDP was dependent on the monies they earned from exports. Now, if the exports go, and exports were based on being the manufacturing hub and the supply chain hub for the world. If that breaks apart,
Yeah, you're in
what
trouble.
happens to your economy? That's why I said an average declining power.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And you could be a rising power later if you develop your own innovation and start doing and start working on it and start doing like this, something like what we are doing now for the last 2 decades,
Yeah,
trying to develop ourselves. Okay, that will be the condition by the end of this century as far as China is concerned.
I know, sir.
If they don't do it, then it's a declining power.
Yes, sir. So lots
And
of
a nuclear declining power is a very dangerous thing for the neighborhood.
yeah, we got another one.
Yeah, to the west.
Another Bhaiban.
And you have one to the north. So
Yeah.
it's a
So
it's a dangerous situation. You got to see how you're going to manage it.
absolutely. So already people are writing great sessions, great session, great session. I think we've got
Oh,
three, and
thank
so
you, sir.
many more will come. And I'm going to say it that I think we've covered a broad canvas of China because uh, personally, I didn't foresee the protests going that far. That tells me that I need to learn about China a little more. And I, of course, didn't foresee Xi Jinping walking back. Now, how far is that walk back? Sir has already told us, and how far the Chinese are going to go forward. Or is this walk back exactly like what Mao Zedong did during the 50s when he allowed the people to open up and talk and then got all those people and sliced them up? If I may, use a very wrong comparison. Is this going to be one of those things? Is something that we'll have to keep a track of? So,
See, even if there were people who were supporting these strikes by the students from within the CPC hierarchy or within the PLA, nobody has come out in the open. They've learned their lesson, history's lesson.
right, sir. Thank you so much,
Thank
sir.
you. Thank
And
you.
till
Thank
next
you.
week. Jai Hind.
Jai Hind.